to the Ant-Man channel. It's Thursday the 7th of February 2013. First thing that I pulled up today was Bruce Willis, and then the second thing I pulled up today was Ted Nugent. So I was thinking, okay, there's obviously there are people out there that want to speak up, because it seems like the celebrities now are choosing sides. We had Chris Rock come out and say Obama's our father, kind of Joseph Stalinish to say, but Ted Nugent always has been outspoken. He's always been very, pro-enthusiast, I guess you could say. But let's just get into this first article here. Napolitano, Obama stealing American lives. Judge blasts White House orders to assassinate U.S. citizens. There's a video here if you want to go look it up for yourself. It's on Wnddotcom. Front page. President Obama's policy of targeting enemies, including Americans, for death through drone strikes is the latest and most alarming example of the endless expansion of government power. And according to Judge Andrew Napolitano, Napolitano is the senior judicial analysis for the Fox News channel, is the author of most recently the Theodore and Woodrow and Freedom Answer book. He says the growth in government power is nothing new, and the erosion of individual freedoms is always pitched in pleasant ways. Monster government almost always comes with a smiling face, he said. After it's here, the face loses its smile and it saps our liberties and our prosperity. Well, our posterity too, but our prosperity as well. Napolitano said there is no implosion of rights as troubling as what we're seeing this week as the Obama administration defends the targeting and killing of enemies, including American citizens, without giving them the right to due process. I've often commented that my job here at Fox is to monitor the government as it steals your liberty and steals your property, but I never thought I'd be monitoring the government stealing your life, he said. Essentially, that's what this is. The administration's legal justification for the drone program was laid out in a Department of Justice white paper. Yeah, I actually downloaded that white paper myself. I haven't read it. It's pretty long, but there are places where you could get it and look at it for yourself. That made its way to NBC News on Sunday night. The paper, which is a distillation of countless other reports, clearly lays out what the Obama administration considers justification for the program of targeted kills. They call us targets. I mean, that's cool. Yeah, it basically says that the President of the United States can authorize an informed, high-level official of the U.S. government to strip the constitutional protections of an American in a foreign country if the informed official is satisfied that the American is in imminent danger to the American national security and his capture or arrest would be impractical, Napolitano said. That is basically the power claimed by kings and tyrants. I can suspend the law to get you if you are in danger. I mean, the NDAA law. Well, the fiat bill, or whatever you want to call it, that was passed by Obama, reminds me, I watched Ironclad last night. I think that's a pretty cool movie, but it actually has a lot to do with what's going on today. The NDAA law is kind of like it's like a king. It's like something out of England when King John was around. I mean that's pretty crazy, but it's just a basic example of how history repeats itself if you let somebody absolutely get drunk with power. It basically says that the President of the United States can authorize an informed high-level official, like I said, of the U.S. government to just say you have no rights and pretty much detain you. No one will know where you are ever, and never will hear about you again, probably. There are defenders of the Obama drone policy on both sides of the aisle, but Napolitano said their arguments fly in the face of the principles on which America was founded on. Would we live in a safer society if the government could cut down every law and abrogate every freedom and break down every door and arrest everybody it wanted? Asked Napolitano. We'd be safe from our bad guys, or from the bad guys, but we wouldn't be safe from the government. Who would want to live in such a society? The judge said it's very easy to read the administration's legal defense for the drone program and see how it could be used to target any American. The language in this 16-page document, like I said, yeah, it's a pretty lengthy document, could easily apply to Americans in America, said Napolitano. So the president could decide that Bill O'Reilly or Glenn Beck or Judge Napolitano are just too troublesome, too meddlesome, too much of an obstacle to the accomplishment of his proposals, and it's time to take them out. The core of the argument is trust us. That's an argument that the Supreme Court rejected because it doesn't trust a single individual to kill, he said. Nothing in the Constitution gives Congress the authority to declare war and a 12-person jury the power to sentence someone to death. As outlined in Theodore and Woodrow, Napolitano said, Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson are largely responsible for changing America from a nation championing limited government to one saddled with a government growing beyond anyone's ability to control it. They shared the same view, and that was this: the Constitution is not the supreme law of the land. It does not limit the government to the powers that have been delegated to it. Rather, it unleashes the government to do whatever it wants, except that which is expressly prohibited in the document, said Napolitano. Now that is not just an academic argument, because that is turning the concept of limited government on its head. Every president from George Washington to William McKinley, Roosevelt's predecessor, with the exception of Lincoln during the Civil War, accepted the idea that the federal government is one of limited powers, and it can only do what the Constitution authorizes it to do, he said. When Roosevelt and Wilson switched to that and turned it on its head, they changed radically the size and scope of the federal government and the relationship of the federal government to individual Americans. So what did this big government push look like a century ago? In about a 5-year period, we suddenly got an income tax, which they promised would never be more than 3%. Of course, it went up to 90% in World War II, said Napolitano. We got the Federal Reserve, which allows them to print worthless cash and put that into the economy. We got one of the most useless wars in American history, which is World War I, basically an argument among the old, dying European monarchies about boundary lines. The judge says both Roosevelt and Wilson cracked down on free speech. They found unhelpful to their cause, and both were outspoken racists who worked to segregate the military after it had been integrated during Reconstruction. Now that America has a full century of big government policies coming out of Washington, can this trend be reversed, and how could that happen? Napolitano said it won't happen anytime soon, but will eventually happen, but in a most unpleasant way. And absolutely, I don't know, man. We're in pretty deep already. I've argued on Fox and elsewhere that we don't have two political parties anymore. We have one political party, the big government party. It has a Republican wing that likes war and deficits and corporate welfare. It has a Democratic wing that likes war and taxes and individual welfare. Both wings have a single goal, and that is staying in power. Honestly, it would take half the Congress and the White House with a small government, maximum individual liberty, Ron Paul-like mentality for these changes to come about, he said. And absolutely, Ron Paul always says something that I can't say any better. It's really like he's just on another level. If they don't come about peacefully, they'll probably come about by other means. Sooner or later, the federal government is going to run out of money. And so many people will be dependent upon the federal cash, it'll stop coming, that they will, all kinds of horrific things in order to eat and to live. Just to stay alive, man. Whoa. Napolitano said, at this point there probably will be a revolution which will end up in a small government, or many small governments, or a totalitarian, and then the totalitarian will probably be overthrown. I'm not suggesting this is going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just a student and teacher of history suggesting the natural result of government overextending itself, he said. It's how Rome died. It's how the European socialist states are dying, and we're not far behind. And then there's a poll here that you could take on this website, Wnddotcom, under Napolitano, Obama stealing American lives. You could weigh in on your opinion on this website and go ahead and vote for your, whatever it is you think about this. I mean, weigh in. This isn't a secret. If you even watch the regular news, if you just turn on the TV, that's what they're talking about too. But they don't tell you the way that I just read it off of this website, which is plain and clear. But they tell you it from a perspective where they favor the corporate, whatever, the machine, whatever you guys want to call it. It's not in your favor to be. I don't know, man. I've been having some deep meditation today, man. And I'm really, I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a lot on my mind, and I know that there's a lot of peace as well when it comes to when you know what you're doing, when you stay in prayer, when you know that when you sacrifice more of yourself to give to others, you start to really get revelations, man. The more you give, the more you receive yourself, and I don't know. It's just I'm having some kind of strong spiritual encounter myself right now, and I've been having one all morning. I've been looking at my globe. This is my globe right here, and I've been just realizing how much you can learn by just looking at the states and the countries that are on the earth and learning about their cultures and what they've been through, and how everybody these big countries, all these big countries on this globe are all like communist. And then when you look at all the smallest places on this earth, like Israel, like where else? El Salvador is so little, but it's so. I bet there's amazing things about El Salvador. I don't know, the Philippines, Japan. There's even smaller than that, like Greece, Athens. That place is small, and there's so much history in these places. But then you look at America and Canada, all of North America right here. Canada, of course, is still a monarchy and it's still ruled by the Queen and all that, but America, look at how ridiculously huge we are. And we are being absolutely brainwashed by like 1% of the population on this state and country. And it is horrifying to think that we only care about football instead of securing the liberty of our kids. And I don't even have kids, but I'm starting to, I don't know. Well, I'm going to post some more videos. Peace.